Daisho is awesome and he's got a cute kid. Daisho is awesome and you'll show your records. Daisho is awesome and you really should watch now. This is Matt from the Accusation Network YouTube channel, and you are watching Medal of Honor.
Hi, I'm Dave Wallace, and welcome to Medal of Honor, where we talk about metal, and we talk about vinyl, and we talk about metal on vinyl. Speaking of metal on vinyl, dig that intro I just had there? That is from my friend, Matt Paradise. You've heard me talk about him several times before. Matt has his own channel on YouTube. It's called The Accusation Network, and he has all kinds of really great shows all about metal on vinyl. Kind of, what influenced me. I've said it before, and I'll admit it. So definitely check him out. He's really informative. His shows are really entertaining. Keeps me interested. Anyways, I try and remember. Okay, don't talk too much about all the same bands that he's talking about. So anyway, really cool shows and a good variety of stuff on there too. So make sure you go and check out Matt's show after this one. If you haven't checked it out yet, definitely go on there and give it a like and subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks, Matt, for the intro, and don't forget that anybody can have an intro on this show, whether it be at the beginning, I can put you in the middle somewhere, towards the end. I usually try and mix it up. It's really simple, and I'm talking to you. I know you think that I'm not, but I am. I'm talking to you. All you gotta do is get your cell phone out, preferably turn it sideways so you get the widescreen. But either way is fine. Just turn on selfie mode, hit record, and just take 10 seconds and just say you're watching Medal of Honor and whatever you want. Say some song lyrics, say something funny, say something sexy, say something stupid. I don't care. Just do something, have some fun, and be a part of this show with me. So I hope you will take my advice and do that. Anybody can do this, and I want you to be a part of this show. So seriously, do that. Make it a short video so that you can email it, and then just send it to medalofhonorshow@gmail.com. That goes along with Christmas cookie recipes and homemade porn and anything else you want to email me. Questions, suggestions, what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show. Definitely send me your intro videos. I want you to be part of this show. And let's move on. Before we get to the metal news, I have a little bit of Dave news that I got to share with you. Now, as you know, you've probably heard me say this a few times, or if you have taken the time to watch my introduction video at the very beginning of this channel, you know that I am an artist of many different kinds. Of course, I'm a musician, I'm a writer, I'm a tattoo artist by trade, and also other different kinds of art, whether it be painting, drawing, pen and ink. I've definitely been an illustrator, I've done watercolor, I've done all kinds of stuff. And I have a new project out. I'm the kind of guy, I can't just do one thing. I have about 5 or 6 projects going at one time. But I got a new book out. It's a sketchbook, and it's called Celebrating the Fairer Form. And you can get this on Amazon. The sketchbook, you can see the lady on the front there. She's not wearing a whole lot. Nobody in here is. A lot of really lovely bodies. Let me see if I can kind of give you an idea of something that's okay on YouTube. Something like that. Anyway, this sketchbook is out now, and it is available on Amazon. I'm going to put the link in the show description. You can look it up. And we got to look up the title there. Let me zoom in a little bit. But yeah, it's Celebrating the Fairer Form, a sketchbook by D.S. Wallace. Now, sometimes people have a hard time finding it. So, if you want to look for it, just go to the link that I'm going to post in there. And don't forget, this has an introduction by Peter H. Gilmore. So it's super cool to have him, be a part of this for me. So I hope you dig it. If you want an inscribed edition, just message me, and I'll charge an extra $5 because I got to order it and then resend it out. So other than that, yeah, I'm happy to do it for you. But check that out if you get a time. Not safe for work, but otherwise it is considered fine art, and it's pretty hot too. So check this out when you get a chance. All right, that's enough babbling. Let's get to the metal news. Unfortunately, we do have to start with some sad news for this episode. Just a few days ago, as I record this, we lost Frankie Banali, the drummer for Quiet Riot, to pancreatic cancer. He died just a few days ago. If you aren't familiar with Quiet Riot, I mean, I have no idea why you're here. Quiet Riot, of course, one of the bands that really paved the way for metal getting into the mainstream when it came to both radio and on MTV back when they used to show videos. Frankie Banali, maybe a lot of times people will kind of think of him as just a hair drummer, but he was actually really talented. He also played on a couple of Wasp albums, including a phenomenal performance on The Headless Children. What a great album. That was all Frankie's playing on there. He did a little bit of performance with Faster Pussycat. He even played the Billy Idol, the song Moni Moni. And, he continued Quiet Riot until the very end, even though he was the only remaining member, and just a driving force in the rock industry. And very sad to see him go. So rest in peace, Frankie Banali. Now, if you watched the last episode that I did, you remember we talked about the Iranian death metal band Arsemes, who was looking at 15 years in prison for playing heavy metal. Well, the day that I released that episode, news updates all of a sudden, of course, that the guys had fled the country. They got out of there and they're safe. They're in a currently undisclosed location. And they're basically just trying to figure out, what their next move is, what they're going to do from here. Matter of fact, on their Bandcamp, they did send out emails. I ordered a T-shirt, and they kind of had to send up to people that give us some time. We're working on this stuff, so if you followed suit, give them a little time there to get to your T-shirts and stuff. But anyway, congratulations to them for getting to safety. Interesting that the sentencing actually came from the Islamic Revolutionary Court of Mashhad, and they gave him that sentencing, or they told him, I guess, what the punishment was going to be by a phone call. So imagine that, you're hanging out wondering what's going to happen, and you get a phone call. Hey, we're going to give you 15 years in prison. All right, be right there. Click, get the fuck out of here. So strange, but really glad for those guys that their government was kind of stupid. So anyway, that's the update on those guys, and glad to hear it. If you watched the very first episode of Medal of Honor, the very first face that you saw was that of Dave Ingram, death metal legend, and the frontman for many bands, of course, but one of them being Benediction, probably one he's best known for. And I told you there was going to be some updates coming, and sure enough, Benediction has a new album coming out on Nuclear Blast Records. And Nuclear Blast on their YouTube site have already shown the video for the first song. It's called Rabid Carnality, and it's badass. You got to check it out. Great song. The song's already being played all over Spotify. I believe you can actually pre-order not only the album on Nuclear Blast, but you can order the album to be downloaded into your Spotify account. Pretty interesting stuff. So the day that it comes out, you can wake up, turn on your Spotify, and it's already loaded up and ready to go for you. Anyway, the album is called Scriptures, and it's coming soon, so I'm gonna try and see if I can wrangle Dave. Maybe I can get him into a side show where we just do an interview focused on him and Benediction. So we'll see if he agrees to that. But anyway, looking forward to hearing new Benediction music. If you're like me, you're a big fan of Iced Earth, specifically the combination of John Schaefer and Matt Barlow working together, then I've got some good news. The two of them are working on a new project together. It's the first time since 2008 that they've gotten together, and they've got a Kickstarter campaign. That's the way Schaefer does all of his stuff now, apparently. They're doing a Kickstarter campaign to get this off the ground. The album is called Winter Nights, and it's called Schaefer and Barlow. Now, unfortunately, it seems like it's going to be Christmas music. They're going to do some Christmas carols their style, and apparently some reimagined Iced Earth classics that they're going to kind of change the lyrics on to fit the Christmas spirit. Bah humbug. But anyway, hey, if that's your thing, that's cool. You know what? I might listen to it anyways just because I love that combination. I've always loved Barlow's vocals. Actually, the first time I ever heard him, I thought it was Paul Stanley singing. Really cool voice, though, and really goes well with John Schaefer's guitars are always huge. So I really hope that this is a sign that maybe we'll see more of them working together in the future as well. So anyway, be on the lookout for Winter Nights. And finally, new book is coming out by Adrian Smith of Iron Maiden. It comes out, I think, in another week from now. And of course, you know, it's going to be a big tell-all about what goes on backstage at Iron Maiden, right? Well, no. Actually, it's a fishing book. Apparently, he does a lot of fishing when they're not on the road, maybe? I don't know. It's called Monsters of River Rock. Just what every metal fan wants to hear, I guess. Hey, you know what? I mean, they gotta have different hobbies sometimes too, and I'm sure some of you enjoy fishing, so why not? Give it a look, and yeah, maybe it'll be a good read. Alright, that's it for the news. Let's get to the reviews.
Welcome back, guys. You're watching Medal of Honor with the one and only Dave Wallace.
Alright guys, a little bit of change of scene here. I was kind of running on some time restraints, so I just decided to bring the camera to work. This is the place where I work every day, and do my album reviews here. So my album reviews, you know, I always try and keep them kind of current, you know, as far as the new reviews. They're all within, like, you know, months. They're all 2020 albums, but you know, there's so much to keep up with that it's kind of hard, you know, when you get into all types of metal and so much stuff coming out all the time. A little bit behind here. So anyway, let's get on with our reviews here, especially when you're only doing, you know, 3 albums a month or 3 albums per episode. It's a little hard to keep up with everything that's happening. But anyway, we're going to start off with something cool and sexy. The first album we're going to talk about, you should have heard of this band by now. The band is Lucifer. And this is Lucifer 3. This came out in March 20th actually of 2020. This came out on Century Media Records. And this is their, of course, 3rd album for this band. They're kind of, at the moment, they're a multinational band. They were formed in 2014 in Germany by the very sexy vocalist Johanna Sadonis. And she has just that really cool, sexy, sultry voice to her. Very similar to Ann Wilson of Heart, at least in texture and sultriness. You know, maybe not so much the range and the power that Ann has, but definitely a great voice. The music here is very much a mixture of Heart with Deep Purple and a lot of Black Sabbath riffs in here too. So it definitely has a 70s vibe, you know, even late 60s, early 70s vibe to the whole thing. She actually is the only consistent member of the band since it started. Right now, she's actually with an entire, her whole band is basically from Sweden, and that's actually where they're based out of at the moment. Really cool album though, a really cool vibe. This is something that you can just kind of mellow out to. It's not so intense, it's just more, like I said, it's a little more on the sexy side, but it's, you know, definitely got a good rock vibe to it. Something you can chill to. Really cool, you know, just imagery. Kind of has that, you know, 60s satanic chic kind of a feel to it. Obviously, they named the band Lucifer, right? Really cool anyways. You should definitely check this one out. Favorites on this one, honestly I really like Ghost, the opener, Leather Demon, that's a good one, and my favorite one is Midnight Phantom. Little added bonus with that one, by the way, is the variant on the vinyl. They call this Coke Bottle Green, and you know, I mean, it's clear vinyl, but with just a little tint of green to it, and I get it. It definitely looks like the old Coke bottle, so kind of a cool little variation to it. Up next, we're going to stick with Sweden, and this is the newest release, but it's an older album. This is Witchery, and this is Restless and Dead. Witchery is a very cool band. They're kind of blackened thrash, I guess. You know, it's definitely got elements of everything. There's some obvious thrash riffs in here, but there's certainly some death and some black metal involved in it too. They kind of really put a nice mixture of all that stuff in there, and you know, a lot of their own style added to it on top of it. I actually discovered them from some of their newer stuff, and really was digging some of the new stuff. I can't wait to dive into that a little bit more. This album actually was their first album. It originally came out in 1998 on Necropolis Records. This one is another one Century Media put out, and it's the first time getting it on vinyl. Originally, you know, the way things work with mixing is that it's different. The audio mix for digital and for CDs is very different than it is for an LP. And when it came out in the 90s, you know, everything was CDs. They just didn't have the right mix for this. So it was only last year that they did the mix for this, so that this year, in March 27th, that they could put this out onto LP sound. The name Restless and Dead is kind of a play on the band Accept's Restless and Wild. A lot of the bands that are into thrash and even the black metal were big fans of Accept. Of course, Fast as a Shark being one of the first blast beat songs, they say. So makes sense that they would kind of play off of that. These guys actually formed in '97 from members of a band called Satanic Slaughter. So appropriate. And of course, you know, they also came up with this whole kind of looks like the Shocker, but this hand is supposed to be a W for Witchery, of course. So apparently everyone at the crowd does that. I don't know. Looks like the Shocker to me, but hey, you know, whatever floats your boat. A lot of cool, fast stuff on this. My favorite one is the album opener, The Reaper. Alright, you know I like my progressive metal, and this time we're going to talk about prog metal supergroup, Sons of Apollo. This is their second album, 2020. And yeah, that's not MMXX, it's 2020. That's how it's pronounced. Definitely a supergroup. When I say supergroup, I mean every single member of this band. Not only are well known in other acts, but amazingly talented band. Super skilled. See if you recognize some of those faces there. If not, let me just tell you. First off, let's start with vocals. We got Jeff Scott Soto, very well known from, of course, Yngwie Malmsteen's first two albums. On guitar, Ron Bumblefoot Thal. You might know him from Guns N' Roses. Actually, he did the whole Chinese Democracy, you know, we got to have 20 members in our band kind of a tour, and he did the album. And I believe he's also works with Asia. He does the vocals and guitar. I didn't even know Asia was still around. I can't remember an Asia song off the top of my head. Anyway, apparently he does that also. On keyboards, Derek Sherinian, who is, I mean, you would swear this guy's playing, you know, ripping lead guitar solos, but it's his keyboard, and he was the keyboardist for Dream Theater. Also from Dream Theater, Mike Portnoy on drums. Jesus Christ, this guy doesn't have enough bands already. I swear Mike Portnoy is probably in 20 bands. What a phenomenal musician. I mean, I guess I can understand. He probably just gets bored. He has to be doing something all the time. Performance on this is great. One of his many bands that he plays in that I absolutely love is one of my favorites of his is the Winery Dogs. And who does he play with in the Winery Dogs? But the bass player for this band, Billy Sheehan. Billy fucking Sheehan. If you don't know him from Winery Dogs, if you don't know him from Sons of Apollo, you probably know him from either Tallis or Mr. Big or, I don't know, David Lee Roth. Yeah, that Billy Sheehan. That guy is a god on the bass guitar. So altogether, I mean, these guys are just fucking phenomenal with what they can do. If you're a musician, you have to check this out. These guys are intense. Great band, great album. This is a double LP, and this is their second album, actually. This one came out actually at the beginning of the year. Sorry, I'm late. This came out in January, but this is their second album. Came out on Inside Out Music. And favorite song, I mean, God, there's a lot of really good songs on this album, but I'm gonna go with my favorite. It's gonna have to be Resurrection Day, actually. It's one of those songs that just gets stuck in your head the first time you hear it, and you just start singing it all day.
Yes, you kneel down to pray. It's Resurrection Day. It's coming your way. Resurrection Day. It's coming to stay. Spellbound, capsize, illumination reprieves. Soul drowned, your heart.
All right, so that's my album reviews for this episode. There's actually a lot of cool new stuff that is coming out at the end of this month, so I'm hoping to get my hands on some new stuff, so I actually maybe next time do some reviews of brand new stuff. But anyway, that's it for now for the reviews. Let's get on to the Honored Metal. So welcome to another edition of the Honored Metal. This time we're going to be doing something, I've said before that, I want to try and make sure that I mix it up. Sometimes it'll be, special editions, or sometimes it's limited runs or box sets, whatever. And this time it's just going to be a re-release with a special vinyl to it. We'll get to that in a minute, but I wanted to make sure that I'm spreading the love a little bit here. So we've done some progressive rock / metal. We've done progressive death metal. We've done some doom, and this time we're going to do a little bit of black metal. One of the bands that actually got me into black metal. A lot of times when people who are accustomed to other forms of metal want to expand on black metal, and maybe they have a hard time because some of the traditional black metal, the production sounds like someone farting through a walkie-talkie. It's often not good, and the originals, that was not necessarily done to make it sound like shit. It was just done with what they had to use, and as a result their passion really came through, and that's what really helped spread that kind of music. But later, a lot of bands that were just trying to consider themselves true Norwegian black metal would just purposely make shitty recordings, and it just really wasn't serving the music. They just were trying to fit into a certain style. So I always suggest for people who want to expand their taste in black metal that they start with bands that are well produced and then kind of work backwards. It's a little easier to take that way. So for me, that's actually what got me into a lot of those bands. So I prefer, the later Emperor music, Dimmu Borgir, and the album that we're going to be talking about today is Immortal. This is the Sons of Northern Darkness. This is a badass album. This originally came out in 2002 on Nuclear Blast Records. This is actually Immortal's 7th album, but it was their first that they put out with Nuclear Blast. Now, this particular one that I'm holding, this is actually a 2018 release, I believe, maybe last year. Like I said, this is a very well produced black metal album, very powerful sounding, really cool. Thing about Immortal is they set themselves apart from other bands in the genre. Now, I mean, yeah, they have the corpse paint look, and you know, the thing with the corpse paint is, I don't know, it's kind of hit or miss as far as sometimes it's very cool, very dark, very spooky. Sometimes when they're wandering around in the woods in these videos with the corpse paint on, it can be a little silly at times, I guess. And if you watch some Immortal videos, some of their videos they're kind of goofy. You know, I definitely prefer Immortal in the audio realm, not so much in the video. I mean, you know, I think they look kind of cool in their pictures here, you know, like as far as that kind of music goes. But it's just that, you know, like I said, watching their videos, they're kind of silly. But anyway, Immortal, they were formed in 1991, actually, in Bergen, Norway. Some of the members, like the vocalist Abath, he actually was in a band called Old Funeral originally, before that formed in 1988. Had several black metal alumni kind of pass through that band, including one Varg Vikernes. And then he ended up getting together with guitarist Demonaz. Both Abath and Demonaz took on the, I don't know, middle and last name or title, the Doom Occulta. I don't think that there's relation there, but you know, that's the names that they chose, obviously. And then through the years, they've had a variety of different drummers, bass players, all kinds of people have come through the band. In fact, they didn't really have a steady lineup until probably around 1996, when they got Horg as their drummer. And then, you know, over the years, they've kind of done different things, like been a two-man band. When it comes to recording, you know, they've done anything from 2 to 3 to 4 people. So, you know, those kind of bands, they usually can get away with that. You know, there's plenty of black metal bands that are really just one member who goes and records everything, and then, you know, gets a bunch of different musicians for a performance. So Immortal is one of those bands where they just, you know, never really did well with a stable lineup until you got Horg on drums in the band there. So, but before they got Horg in the band, they went through several lineup changes, and one of the drummers that they actually had for a while was Hellhammer, also of Mayhem fame, and also Dimmu Borgir fame as well. So you know, they've had a lot of interesting people come through the band. They started putting out music in '91 with when they formed as Immortal. They had an EP out, and then they had their first full-length album in '92, which was Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism. That was their first full-length album. That was really more of that traditional black metal sound to it. Now, after that, they followed up with an album called At the Heart of Winter, and that started to add a little bit more elements of thrash to it, I guess you say. Sort of mixing black metal and thrash together to kind of help combine and get their own sound. Like I said, once Horg was in the band, they kind of developed their sound a little bit better, and he really brought a really powerful drum sound to the mix. So that was pretty cool. Interesting that Demonaz really is the one who writes most of the lyrics. Yet Abath is the vocalist for the band, so just an interesting note there. So in 2000 they signed with Nuclear Blast Records, and then 2 years later they put this album out, Sons of Northern Darkness. Get that right there. And they had a bass player named Iscaria in the band at the time. Right after putting this album together, I guess he left the band. Came out later that he actually only played bass on the first song, and that Abath did the bass on the rest of the album. So since this album, this was their last really great album as far as most fans would be concerned. But since then, they really have not had a stable lineup or a stable just career. They've kind of been on again, off again as far as being a band. At certain times they just called it quits. Then they would have a reunion. Some big huge festival over in Europe would happen, and of course they would get back together for festivals, so that way they could have their moment in the limelight again. In 2009, they released an album called All Shall Fall. It was a decent album, definitely not the same as this one. And then in 2015, Abath left the band, went on to do solo music, and Demonaz took over as the vocalist, and they did release in 2018 an album called Northern Chaos Gods. So that's where they stand at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that, the way these bands are, and this band in particular, I wouldn't be surprised if we find out, in the next couple of years that they probably get back together for some kind of, festival and maybe do an album, whatever. But in the meantime, right now, Abath is doing his own thing, and Immortal is going on without him. So one of the interesting aspects about this band is most of the song lyrics, they don't really do that, and I'm going to use quotations here, satanic themes as some of the other black metal bands usually claim to do. They actually have what they call Blashirk. Blashirk is a demon and battle-filled realm that they focus all their songwriting in. It fuses gothic and Nordic and heroic themes all together, and always puts it in sort of a wintry landscape with forests and snow, and it's fitting of of course Norway, but this is just sort of their own realm that they've kind of created, their fantasy land where they put all of their storytelling at. So it's an interesting idea. So let's get into this actual album, Sons of Northern Darkness. Let me put this somewhere you can see it. How about there? Alright. So the first track on this album is called One by One. It's the one track that Ascaria did play bass on. One by One is basically like a lot of their songs. It basically has to do with sort of a medieval, or I guess probably a Viking style battle. It describes a tribe that is falling one by one to a superior race, probably the Nordic race. But anyway, this is One by One. The second track on this album is the title track, Sons of Northern Darkness. This song kind of describes beings in a spirit realm who have traveled through space and time to come and wreak havoc on the land, basically setting fire to the lands and destroying all they come in contact with. Track number 3 is called Tyrants. This has a really killer drum feel to the whole song. This song basically describes the glory and the detail in a warrior's armor and his weapons, and the gleam of the metal, and it's something that they kind of took a small area of and just really focused on and made it their own. Really cool song. Track 4 is Demonium. Basically, Demonium is kind of describing how it would feel to be one of these blackened spirits and communing with the souls of of the past, and kind of a simple, a lot of their lyrics are kind of rather simple and straight to the point, but interesting, just kind of the perspective that they chose to use in this particular song. Track number 5 is Within the Dark Mind. This is a song, again, they use very simple aspects in nature, and just kind of focus on describing those very scenes, such as in this song, it really just has to do with the wintry landscape from a nighttime perspective, and communing with pagan gods in that. So again, if you really describe what the song's about, that's really all it is, but lyrically they just go into a lot of detail on it. Track number 6 is In My Kingdom Cold. This song has a little bit of a nod to H.P. Lovecraft at the Mountains of Madness, and it's basically has to do with entering a cold and frozen world, and sort of accepting your fate as you go in, sort of like you're being drawn into your own death. Track number 7 is called Antarctica, and again, this is one of those songs where the idea is very simple. I mean, they're really just describing a landscape, and how vast the snowy mountains are, and the glaciers expanding, and towering ice, and it's really impressive that these guys can make something sound so brutal, and they're just, I guess it is a brutal continent, and nobody lives there for a reason, but it's just an interesting concept for a band to take and make a song of their own. So the final track on the album is Beyond the North Waves. This is my favorite song. This is probably the song that I first heard that really drew me into this band, and it actually has to do with probably, I guess, your typical Nordic themes, Vikings traveling by longboat overseas, and then finally setting their feet on the soil of their enemies that they're about to invade. The thing that's interesting about this is that you can really hear, you can feel that rowing and that trudginess of it all. It's a really, I guess, beautiful way of capturing that vibe. Now, as far as the overall, this is, like I said, just sort of a basic run of this album. It doesn't have a whole lot of extras with it. It's got the lyrical content, on the inside, and you can kind of see the guys standing out there with these cool weapons here. That they've got all these like axes and bats with spikes and shit that they could have posed with some instruments, but yeah, they chose that. And then the weapons designer, actually looks like there are several guys listed here: Henning Asenfosse and Jan Erik Larsen and Horgan Abath. Those are the weapons designers. So that's just interesting that they put weapons designers on here. Anyway, it talks about where it was recorded and the band members. Little quote here: "The kings that hold on their thrones, immortal and invincible, the might lives on." So anyway, other than that, the other thing that was interesting about this album, why now, as a vinyl collector, of course, there's little things, not just, it's not just about the music, because I can just listen to it on digital if that's all it was. It is about collecting, and one of the things that draws a collector is variants, and especially if they tell you that's a limited run. This particular one is limited to 1,500 copies, I believe, and it has to do with, of course, the vinyl. And vinyl variants are just that. It is a way to draw you into to spend more money on something, so you buy with different copies of the same thing. It doesn't mean that it was necessarily that much harder to make. Doesn't mean it sounds any better. As far as I know, the color of vinyl doesn't make any difference, though I have heard that sometimes clear vinyl is maybe not as high a quality, but from what I understand, it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. It's just something cool to say, hey, I got this cool icy blue variant. But the other thing that's really cool about this, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you, I'm going to try and see if I can get this to show, maybe if I turn turn the light the right way. Okay, so if you kind of see it there, with my light glaring on there, but it's etched, and it's got the logo, the band logo, and then the three dudes holding their fucking, there's Lucille or whatever crazy weapons that they're holding there. I don't know if I can get it. Let me see. Let's try this. You can kind of see some of the picture there. Anyway, yeah, okay. So anyway, that's kind of a cool thing. I like that, the whole etched side of the album. So anyway, this is a double album, so that was just basically there's three sides that have recorded material, and then side D, I guess, actually is the etched side. So pretty cool stuff. So anyway, that is pretty much all that there is to this. It's not like there wasn't any posters or any lyricals. The lyrics are inside the jacket, of course, but yeah. Other than that, just kind of wanted to share that with you because, like I said, this is a really great way to get into black metal. They've got that heaviness to this album, a clear production. The drums are huge, the guitars are big on here. About vocals, I mean, you could say the same thing about death metal. I mean, there's not like there's any range to it, but it fits what they're doing, and it's definitely a classic album, one I still listen to all the time. So if you've never listened to Immortal or any black metal, check this album out.
You're watching Medal of Honor.
Before we go, I wanted to make sure that I shared a little bit of another bin diving experience for you. I think just kind of reflecting on old stuff, especially for us vinyl hunters, coming across something cool, is a good thing to share. So I recently went on a trip from Florida all the way up to northwest Indiana, going to see some of my family. And while I was up there, of course, on my way I plotted a few little side trips to a few record shops, bin diving, trying to find, something super cool. I did find some cool stuff. Some of it may come up actually in some other episodes. But the coolest thing that happened was I actually got handed an album, not from bin diving, but just given to me by my brother-in-law, Tim. He's having dinner with his family, said, hey, I forgot, I got to give you something. And he hands me Overkill, Under the Influence. And this is actually a promotional copy. It's got the stamp up there. I don't know if you can see that. But yeah, this is a promo copy of this. So this one's been around for a little while. Really cool to get this. Now, interesting is that, back in high school when this came out, I really wasn't a big fan. I think just because every fucking weekend MTV's Headbangers Ball played Hello from the Gutter. And, kind of get tired of that shrill voice all the time. Every single time they showed it, I swear. But later on, I ended up getting into them because, you know, just like I've done with other bands that we've talked about on the show, it's always the voice at first that kind of throws me off. I don't care for it, but then after I get into it, I find out that there's some great musicianship on these albums, and Overkill is definitely one of those bands. This is a great classic album. Aside from, you know, just that one song, I mean, there's songs like Shred, Brain Fade, Head First, and actually my favorite on this one is Drunken Wisdom, which, you know, I didn't really catch this before, but I was just listening to this recently and realized that actually probably sounds like where the influence for Pantera's A New Level riff comes from. Anyway, really cool find. Thank you, Tim. I think it was a pretty good trade. You got my sister, I got this album, so I'll take it. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Listen, don't forget that you guys send me any kind of questions you want, comments, tell me about things that you're liking, things you want to hear more of. I got all kinds of show ideas coming up. We're doing a lot of spin-off shows. We're going to be doing some local reviews. We're going to be doing some list shows. Next week, actually, I'm going to have a list show coming out. So I might still break up this show. But make sure that you're spreading the word. I'm going to have some more contests coming up also. I will be doing some more album giveaways. Actually talking to my dealer about doing something. So don't forget to, like and subscribe. Hit that little bell symbol down here. Also, make sure you spread the word. Get on Facebook. Share these videos with people. I'd like to get more people involved in it. Definitely send me your intro videos, okay? Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that shit. Like it, share it, suck it. Be a part of this show with me, all right? Thank you guys very much. And as always, keep your horns up and keep them down.